All right, you guys, here we are. This ascension process is so massive. The guides really want to talk about how huge this really is. And we're going to get in there today. We're going to go deep. There's a lot of information that wants to come through, and we're going to get a little quantum. We're going to get a little trippy. We're going to go in there. And I don't even know why I say that, because that's why we're here. So let's do it. Let's just hop in. Okay, if you watched my last video about Atlantis and Lemuria, we're kind of going to touch on that just a little bit again, but for a more expansive reason. So the guides came through and they were saying that this moment in time is so freaking important. And they're like, I don't think you realize how effective what we're doing is. This inner work, this awareness, us stepping into these higher versions of ourself, into this fifth dimensional place. They want to bring through the effect it's going to have, not only on the planet, but the universe. So it's like we have these strings of connection. They were telling me it's almost as if Earth and other planets and other energies, it's like we're all this one big family. And, you know, if you live in a house with a family, if something is going on with one member of the family, all the other people are going to notice it, and they're probably going to be affected by it. So if somebody's sick, or, you know, somebody is down, or somebody is really excited and they're achieving things, it's like everybody's going to feel that energy, and it's going to affect them, and maybe how they even go about their day. The energy affects everybody's choices. The energy affects everybody else's consciousness and what we learn and what we know. So what the guides are saying is, this is how interconnected it is. Everything is happening at the same time. And I know this is hard for humans to comprehend. What we would call past lives aren't exactly past lives. They're just other parts of our soul having another experience in a different plane of existence. So it's like all those lifetimes are attached in this web for us. And what we may call extraterrestrials are just another fractal or piece of our soul that has incarnated into an ET type body, like a Pleiadian or an Arcturian body. And it's like they're going through that experience, and they may work as guides for us right now, but it's really just like us in a higher dimensional state in a different plane of existence. So this gets deeper. This is what's really happening. I talked about Lemuria and Atlantis in my last video, and I want to just touch on that again. So Lemuria was this highly conscious, really like natural, very like energy, like channeling, just had all these different types of natural abilities. And they built this beautiful civilization on Earth. And then the Atlanteans came and they took them and destroyed their civilization, and they took over. So this has happened so many times. We think about like, okay, Lemuria, we think about, even Egypt, other ancient civilizations on planet Earth. These are all happening at the same time too, but they're in different planes of existence. So that's how we don't notice that it's like right now we're living on planet Earth in 2024, but it's like at the same time, Lemuria is also happening. And we're all reaching this peak point of like, are we going to be fully taken over by these third dimensional, like lower conscious driven beings? Are we going to fully give in to that system of consciousness? And it's like we're hitting that breaking point. So it's not just Earth too. It's like the Orion Wars. It's like Lyra and Vega being taken over, and like all these other planets and things that have happened where these lower dimensional entities have come, if you want to call them reptilians, draconians, whatever. It's like they've come and taken over. And it's like these beings, the Lyrans or whoever, like they're higher dimensional, but it's like they never came in contact with that consciousness. So they didn't really know how to handle it. It got the best of them in some terms or another. So that's like, I know I said like Lemuria was seeded to attract the dark, but it's also like the veil came down. We didn't remember exactly that that's what it was. And what's happening is like, I was being shown that like, okay, these Orion Wars, Lyra Vega, Lemuria, Atlantis, like we're all reaching this point where they got taken over and it's happening at the same time. So what's going on with Earth right now is we're the ones that have been put in the position to uncover what it takes to remove ourselves from this consciousness and not let it have power over us. We hold the key. We're holding the key and unlocking this gate for all of those other planets and civilizations that were taken over to walk through as well. So this gets even deeper. So these like ETs that are helping us right now, that are in the skies, are like future versions of those planets, Orion, Lemuria, Lyra, whatever, like I keep saying. So they are like future versions, and they're also fractals of our soul. So it's like they're us, but in a different body, in a different plane of existence. And they're also like, I know time doesn't exist, but in our human brain of thinking, it's like they're coming from the future and they're bringing to us the help and the guidance that we need to unlock this gate, because they're the version that has already received that information from us. We're really getting like, what's that movie? Back to the Future? It's like this, like we're time traveling. So, this is all happening. So like the ETs that are working are like almost from the future, the ones that are with us right now. And they're telling us how to do it, but we're the ones that actually taught them. If that makes sense, because we're about to unlock this code and release ourselves from this system. And when we do that, because we're connected, just like that family in the house, just like these strings of these lifetimes that are all connected in this web, it's like when we reach that consciousness, because that's another fractal of our soul, we share that information with that piece of us that also had these lifetimes in Lemuria, Atlantis, Lyra, Vega, Orion, whatever. We get to share that information with those souls. We're working as like a network. So there's no pressure. It's like, but there's so much riding on this. And it's not to be like, and if we don't figure it out, then everybody else falls. Because I don't think that's really like the case. It's been created. If this was like a video game, it's like the game was created to be won, to be beaten. And we're doing it. We're so close. Like the scale is about to really tip. It already has. And they're saying like, when it does, which it feels like that's what's coming, around November, December, it's like these lower dimensional beings that have been in quote unquote power are creating their last ditch efforts right now to try and like sink their claws into us. Because if we unlock this, if we find the key of how to unlock ourselves fully from this system and step into this higher dimension, they lose their control over all these other planets and civilizations that exist in these different planes at different times, but also the same time. Woo! I feel like I just created this like mind fuck. It makes sense to me. I think it's making sense to you all too. But it's like, wow, energy affects everything. It's the domino effect, You touch one and it affects the rest. So what's happening as we go along this year It's like, okay, if you've ever been in a relationship with a narcissist, whether it's romantic, platonic, parental, whatever it may be, they do this thing when they feel you are figuring out their tactics, when they feel they're losing their control or power over you. What do they start to do? Even if it's not a narcissist, if you just see someone who's like type A and loves to be in control, when they start to lose that control and people start to do their own thing, what do? They spin out and they start like trying to become even more controlling. It's like, ah, no, do this, come on. It's like, it's like are, it becomes even more like insane. And you're just looking at the person like, what are you doing? Nice try. Thanks. Wow, you're really putting the effort in to just like reel me back in. And that's like what's coming. I think it's already been happening. I mean, I think it started really like big time in 2020 with everything that happened. It's like so many of us were like, what? I don't know. I don't think so. That doesn't sound right. I'm going to tune in with myself and honor that, you know? And it feels like they're creating this like ruse, this like last ditch effort to be like, oh, we'll get him. But it's going to have the opposite effect this time. Whereas like, you know, when you're in a relationship with a narcissist, they may do this several times. Oh, I'm losing control. I'm going to do something to reel them back in. And we may go back in over and over again. And since we've done that so many times, and even the people who are about to wake up, these fifth waivers, it's like, um, if you're new here and you haven't watched my other videos, I recommend that. My channels tend to like build on each other. And I talk about the waves going to New Earth. So, this fifth wave that's about to really hit their awakening, I feel like it happens through like something that these powers that be or powers that were they're trying to like maintain their control. And instead it has the adverse effect. Instead, people are like, what are you doing? What is going on? Something's not right here. So then there's anger on both sides because, you know, these lower beings are losing their control. And then these other beings, these fifth wave people, are waking up. And it's just like, clash. They're going at each other. And we're just here like, whew, okay. We're figuring out, we're still pulling ourselves out of this drama, out of this, you know, victimhood, out of this resentment and anger and reactivity. And it's like, when we learn to do that, again, we like shift almost like the space-time continuum or something. I don't know what the word is here that I'm looking for, but it's like all the other timelines where these other planets and civilizations got taken over by this consciousness, this energy. We now get to pass them the answers of how to unlock themselves from that control. So what we're doing in this ascension process is so freaking powerful. And it's like, you know, it feels insane at many portions of this, almost all of the time. I mean, May and June have just felt like a freight train. It's been like, vroom, like we are just plowing forward. It almost feels like, you know, wait for me. I gotta hop on the train. And we're like, okay. And we lose our hat and we're like, no. And we're trying to grab it and put it back on our head. And it's just like, and the conductor's like, we got to keep going. And we're like, okay, you know, my bag just flew off, but I guess I don't need it. And this is going to continue through the end of June and into July. But I feel like as we hit the end of July, it starts to slow down. When we hit August, it's like, all right, we can take a breath. We went through this period where we've been forced to not think. We're like, we just have to do. Where am I being called? I just have to follow it. So, all right, we're learning to unlock the keys. What are the keys here? You know, not unlock the keys. We're learning to use the keys to unlock the gate. And it's like, well, how do we do that? That's what we really want to know. And in order to know how to do that, we have to really define and know how this third dimensional consciousness and plane of existence has its hold over us in the first place. So, what does it want? Whoo, baby, more than anything, it wants you. It wants control over you. That's what it wants. It wants to have the ultimate power. You know why these beings have come to these civilizations and these different planets? They want control. If once they get control of so many, then it's like they can go up into even higher planes and take control over there. They want to be God. We've seen that. Leaders and different people in the world who are like playing God. They ain't gonna be God. Honey. We already are God. We just have to find that within ourselves and understand what God really is, what source is. So that doesn't equal this control. God is the opposite of that. It's freedom. It's compassion. It's this looseness to let you explore and be who you are. This third dimensional system doesn't allow that. It wants control. It wants your soul. It's a vampire. What's that? I think it's a Smashing Pumpkin song where it's like, the world is a vampire. I did. Horrible, out of tune. But anyways, I think that's the first line of the song. It's like, the world is a vampire. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's here to suck the life force out of you. If you let it. But we ain't gonna let it. We're done letting it. And how does it do this? How does it have this control over us? Because it's not always overt. There are still all these little subtle ways and all these little like tentacles that come in to seep in and have control over us. Well, we know after 2020, the biggest one is fear. We want to make people be afraid. We want them to feel limited. They have no other option. We want them to be dependent on us. When they're not in their power, we have control. We've got them in the palm of our hand. So there's specific ways that they do this. First of all, the third dimensional system creeps up in relationships. This is the biggest one. When you're in relationship with people and you are like, you don't like something they do or they trigger you, it's like, oh, we're going to be at each other's throat then. We're going to get in an argument. And the energies and like the archons of these lower systems are like, haha, yes, we got him. And you get angry and you're screaming at each other. It's like, oh, you're in that reactivity. That's how it keeps you. It wants you to feel like, I'm right, you're wrong. And we see this not even just in interpersonal relationships, but in like societal relationship. Look at the US and the party systems. Well, it's constantly people just being like, you need to be this way. And we're at each other's throats saying, I'm right, you're wrong. I'm going to try and convince you to be the way I want you to be. And it's just like, wow, they're doing a beautiful job at keeping us separate. And we keep feeding into that. And it's like, where is that getting us? Of like, I'm telling people things need to be this way. No, things only need to be that way for you because that's what resonates. And when we let people all have their own reality, I've talked about this before, that's how we open up and we can really learn and build from each other and we can actually start coming together. Our differences create the whole. But they like to have control over you because the world wants you to just be one way. So when you can try to get other people to be one way, aka your way, oh, then that system's got its tentacles wrapped around you. So when you can like let someone be completely different from you, even if they're like, I'm super spiritual. You know, we see this all the time in the spiritual community. And I know this is going to ruffle some feathers, but I think by now watching my videos, you know, I don't care. So there's this thing in the spiritual world where it's like, if you're not vegan, then you're a piece of shit. We have these systems that are put in place in our world. You know, we've relied on meat for like thousands of years. You think we're just one day going to stop and be like, I don't need it anymore? I don't think so. We need all the support we can get in this ascension process. And if for you being vegan works, that's beautiful. But we like to go and condemn other people and say, you're an asshole. You're not spiritual if you eat meat. And it's just like, you're not spiritual if you're sitting here telling other people that they're wrong. That's judgment. That's you casting judgment on other people. So it's like, this is still that third dimensional system getting a hold of us. It's that ego. And it's like, wow, we have to start recognizing that within ourselves. And the more we can lift ourselves out of it and like look at it from a bird's eye view, like the easier this gets. Let go, let go, let go. We have to follow our own path. Where does that come from? Right here in the heart. So another way they really get us through this fear. Ooh, I know I have dealt with this. Money. I really want to talk about this. So we want to follow our heart. And these lower beings who are quote unquote in power right now, they don't want us to be in tune with our heart. So what have they created? A money system. Oh, I'll get them with this. So then they can constantly tell themselves they can't do things because they don't have enough. Or they have to constantly tell themselves they have to do things this way so that they can get this. And then they'll never follow their heart. Ha ha, it's beautiful. This is another thing where it's like, in the higher dimensions, people, the beings are like, wait, you have money? And it's like, yeah. And they're like, why? You should just offer your heart, and that's the exchange. And while it's like, yeah, that'd be great, we'd love to do that, we are still in this system. And the whole point of being in these systems is to understand the systems, to know how they work, and instead of letting them command us and have control of us, we learn to be in our power and utilize the systems by commanding them for us. Does that make sense? So if we're beholden to like, oh, I have to work this type of job because there's no other way for me to make money, but your heart is like, I want to play piano in a concert hall, and you're here, working a 9 to 5 in an office. It's like, well, what's missing here? How can you start pulling yourself out of this system and learning to become this beautiful pianist and stepping into that for yourself? What does that look like? It's in here. It's in the heart. We do this all the time. And I hear people say all the time, I'm asking my guides for things. I'm asking for guidance and I'm not getting anything. Yeah, and I can hear the guides being like, oh my God. They're saying, we're telling you stuff all the time. You don't know how to speak our language. We're learning the language of the universe here. And how does it speak to you? Through your heart. It's like, let's say somebody wants to learn, they want to know, how can I make more money in my life? I need to make more money. And all we're taught is this logical third dimensional system of like, I got to do it this way and I got to work hard and I got to grind my gears, and if I don't, then I'm going to be broke and I'm going to be in lack. And it's just like, okay, if we're not pulling it in, it's almost a good sign, because it's like, oh, I'm learning to step into my heart to follow that more. And the thing that happens here is you're asking, I want to know how to make more money. And then you're like, well, the guides aren't showing up for me. I don't know how to do this. And they're like, oh my God, yes, we are. And I'm going to use this example because this has happened to me. I'm like, I need to know this thing. Why aren't you showing up for me? It should be practical here. It's like, you're asking, I want to make more money. And then the guides, you keep seeing, let's say like billboards or advertisements for Fiji. And you're like, oh, wow, that looks beautiful. I'd love to go to Fiji. And you can feel it in your heart growing. Like, man, I would love to just take like a week vacation to Fiji. Oh, the waters look so beautiful, and just like rest on a beach and like eat some fresh fruits and like, just relax, and it'd be quiet, and I'd be just away and have a nice retreat for myself. But you're like, I can't do that. I can't do that. I won't know if I'd be able to take off work, and that's all of a sudden, and I don't know if I have the funds, so I'm just not going to do it. And then the guides are here like, oh my gosh. So then they have like a coworker. All of a sudden you're talking to somebody, in a break room or something, and they're talking about how, oh yeah, I spent my honeymoon in Fiji and it was so fantastic, my spouse and I want to go back. And it's like, man, that's Fiji popping up again. That's so weird. And you're just like, man, I really want to go. And you're like, well, I've asked about how I can make more money and I'm not getting any signs. And the guides are here like, you don't know how to speak our language. We're giving you the sign. It's Fiji. We want you to go to Fiji. But what happens is we often feel this thing of like when we don't connect the dots that we're not getting what we need, but you don't know how to speak the language. The language is in the heart. And since we're stuck in this system of like this third dimensional, logical, practicality system, I don't like to step into the unknown. I need everything planned out. Then we deny ourselves what our heart wants, what our heart feels like guided towards. So we shut it down. And then we like get angry and become the victim and blame our guides that they're not giving us what we've been asking for. But this is the thing. Then maybe we recognize it. Then we're like, oh, Fiji, there is something there for me. But I don't know what it is yet. And I don't have the money. And if I'm supposed to go, then the guides will bring me the money. And so I can't go yet until it shows up. And the guides are just here like, oh my God. You've asked us for a step and we gave it to you. Now we need you to take the step before we can give you the next one. That's how it works. You don't look at a staircase and you're like, ugh, why can't this just be one big step? Why can't it just carry me up? It's like, yeah, take one step and then the next. And it's going to be shown to you. And it's like when we follow the heart, as humans, we think, well, the heart should have it all planned out for me. I should know. The heart lives in the unknown. It thrives in the unknown. It's like, I'm going to trust and believe in myself and where my heart is guiding me. And I know on the other side what I need is going to show up. So finally, it's like you give in and you're like, all right, I'm going to go to Fiji. And you book the trip and you go and you're relaxing on the beach and it's great. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, because you're creating this energetic space for yourself, this huge download drops in of like, oh my gosh, what if I started, passing out cards to like play piano at concerts? And it's like now, or play piano at weddings, or play piano for like certain events that people are having. And it's like, oh, and I could make extra money by doing what I love. And you're like, oh my gosh. And you're feeling invigorated. And the guides are like, thank you. We needed you to get out of the system that you're in and go to this place that's an energetic match to the vibration you're wanting to step into. And you could clear your head so that we could give you the next step. And then you go back home and you're like, okay, I order my cards on like, Vistaprint or whatever. And you start and you find places where you can hand this out to. And you go to like, I don't know, wedding dress stores and you're dropping your cards off. And it's just like, and you're getting people who are now like, come play piano. And it's like, now you're bridging the gap from working this 9-to-5 job to being that concert pianist. But we keep thinking like, I need everything to be in place before I can start doing that. And that's not how the heart works. That's not how the fifth dimension works. It's, I see this goal. I'm shown what I want to be. I feel it in my heart. Now I need to drop back and work with the universe and my guides and my higher self to show me how to get there. And we have to learn to trust. And it's like, okay, I spent all this money on the trip, but then you're given a way to make that money back by doing the thing that your heart wanted. And when we keep so tied in this lack and I don't have enough and I can't do this, the system has gotcha. I gotcha. I can't be who I am. I can't follow my heart. And this is how this system works with the relationships. Oh, I gotcha. You're not in your heart. You're not honoring yourself. You're getting angry at the person and blaming them. It's their fault. You did this. You need to be this way. When we step back and we start feeling that space, boy, that's when life really gets magical. When we allow the unknown to become familiar, I'm familiar with the space of the unknown. It's beautiful. What's that? I'm not like a Steve Harvey fan, but I know back in the day he wrote that book. What is it called? It's like Leap and the Net Will Appear. I think that's what it's called. But I love that title. And I know it's like a phrase too that people use, like just leap and the net will appear. That's the fifth dimension. There is risk involved with following the heart, but without risk, there is no reward. And like, we want these deeper parts of ourselves to become a part of our life, but we keep holding ourselves back in these limitations. And it's like when you follow the heart, it's going to show up for you. Following your heart isn't easy. It's not gonna be, because we have been used to this other type of system, this third dimensional system, where we've limited and denied ourselves for so long. Oh, I want to speak my truth, but I'm afraid if I'm going to, that I'm going to be ridiculed and shunned and isolated because of it. And it's just like, but my heart is telling me that I need to. And when you follow that, you might be surprised how many people resonate with what you say. When I started this YouTube channel, I was so freaking afraid of putting my channelings up on YouTube. I was like, oh my God, if other people find this, I've already like lost so many friends from the comedy community thinking I'm crazy. If they see this, I'm going to lose like everybody. But I'm like, I was so called to do it. And now I'm like here and all of you are here and I'm so grateful. And we have this community and look at us. Look at us using the third dimensional system to build ourselves up, to create something more wonderful. What an example of like, oh, we're using YouTube, which like censors the shit out of you and like comes after people and stuff like that. It's like, and here we are. Like, and it's just like, wow, that like what's available to you when you follow your heart is incredible. And knowing the difference between the heart and the ego, if you're like, man, I really got to get a Range Rover because then I'll feel good. It's like, okay, maybe let's check that. Why do you really want that? Like, keep asking yourself why. And if you're at a point where you're just like, I don't know, I just feel like I need to. It's like when people ask you, how did you know that you were in love? You're like, I don't know. I just felt it. I just knew it. I just knew that this was like my person. And it's the same thing. I don't know why I'm being called to do this thing, to go to this place, to talk to this person, but I just feel like I need to. There's a step here for me. There's something here that I need. It's a key. I get to unlock that gate. But if we're sitting in this fear the whole time of like, I don't know how this is going to happen. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. It's like, yeah, you're putting a little more stress on the situation. But even in that, if you're still stepping through the fear and stepping into your heart, it's going to show up for you however it needs to. And we try to get this idea of how we want it to look. And the guides are here like, stop, let us wow you, let us show you how incredible this can be. Maybe you take that Fiji trip, that download comes in, and then you meet somebody else who is like, oh, I like conducted a symphony for years and now I'm like, an agent for musicians. What do you do? And you go, well, I'd love to play the piano. And they go, oh, let's connect. I'd love to hear you. And like, then, it's like, wow, now I have a job and I have an idea. And it's like, now I have someone helping me. It's like, you never know. But the language of the universe doesn't speak in practicalities. It speaks to you in the heart through excitement, through, I know I need this. There's something that's drawing me to this. So I'm going to follow it. Boom. That's when we unlock the gate and we start walking into this higher consciousness. That's when we start pulling up all of these other fractals of ourselves. With these civilizations and these other planets, we're essentially like, it's like our soul created this moment on Earth to almost send us to the future, to unlock the keys. I keep saying unlock the keys, to get the keys to unlock the gate, and then send it back to these other versions of ourselves or past life versions of ourselves. So like, Everything here is incredible. It's just like we have to start turning our gaze into the heart. The mind is going to fuck with you. The mind, it's like you hear the phrase mind control, you know? That's what they do. This is how they control our mind, through their systems that like plug into us. We just want to like pull it out. We do that through like finding our worth, our abundance, our value. I deserve to have this. I'm going to step into it. I know there's something here. So, as we step more into ourselves and follow our heart is like who we are. This is like where our soul speaks to us. So, when we step into our soul missions, it's just like us being who we are and following our heart. Yeah, I feel like I'm supposed to build this thing, this community garden, this starseed school, I don't know, this dance class. I don't know. I'm an artist and I'm an energy healer, and I feel like I need to bring the two together. I'm going to like start really tuning with the heart of how I'm supposed to do that. When you do that, you are not only shifting yourself and this planet, but those other planes of existence and other civilizations and other planes of like time and other planets where this is going on as well. You're shifting the consciousness for that too. I'm sorry, but that's like fucking insane, incredible. And this is what we're focusing on in my soul mission program. How to really step into that. How to really build from this place. How to move all this stuff out of the way and pull this operating system of the third dimensional world out of our bodies and really become who we are. I want to give you another example. Okay, this is like what we do compared to following our hearts versus like, I got to be in logic and practicalities. Now, I know logic and practicalities have their place and they're still here, you know, but the heart, it's like we're going to feel that pull. We're going to feel that, there's just I know, I just feel like I need to do this. So let's say you're like, man, I really want to have a beautiful experience in nature. And you decide you're going to go on this hike. And you are like at this trail, and at the trail it says like waterfall, and it's pointing up this trail, and you're like, wow, I could go see this beautiful waterfall. And you look at the trail, and the beginning of it is uphill, and that's all you can see is the uphill. And you're just like, oh God, I don't know if I want to hike this. It looks like it's all uphill. I got issues with my knee and my back, and I don't want to get all tired. It's going to exhaust me if I do that hill. And it's like your heart is that sign that says waterfall. And it's like pointing you this way. And this like next level is that hill. It's like, just climb this. That's the trust. But what you don't know is that once you get up that hill, then it's downhill and it's flat, and then it's an easy and it's uphill, and like, there's a beautiful stream that runs through, and you may see like a family of deer, and like, they're little babies, and like you just have this beautiful experience, even just walking to the waterfall, just even trusting that and being like, all right, I'm going to do this uphill and it's going to be fine. But we fall into this thing of like, it's too much, and I don't know if I have enough time, and I'm going to be exhausted, and my knee hurts, and I'm just not going to do it. I'll just go, walk around in this little loop that I always do all the time. And it's just like, okay, we'll do the same cycles that we always do. So we look at that hill, and then when we make the decision to be like, all right, I'm just going to do this, and we start seeing like all these beautiful trees and flowers, and you're walking on this hike, and you're feeling the energy, and the sun shining through the trees. And then you get closer and closer to the waterfall, and you're hearing the water running. And it's like, oh my gosh, I can feel it. It's right there. You maybe even start to feel the mist a little bit. And then when you get to the waterfall, it's like majestic. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. And there's this pool of water under the waterfall, and you can like get in and swim in it. And the water's perfect, and you can like feel the sun shining in the water, and you can feel like the molecules getting activated, and that's activating in your body, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is so wonderful. And then you go lay on this rock that's like, off to the side, and it's flat, and the sun's just shining right down on it, and you get to dry off in the sun. And you're like, oh, this was amazing. This is exactly what I wanted. I feel so refreshed and rejuvenated. And you're, just receiving the energy of this place. And then as you get up and you're starting to walk back on the trail, you run into somebody else who's coming back and going back too, and they go, oh, I don't know if you know this, but if you go up just a little further, there's this beautiful vista and you can look out over all of the land at the top of the mountain. And you're like, oh, wow. And you walk just a little further and you reach this vista and you get to like see all the land, the town that may be beneath, the trees, the river, everything. And you're just like, wow, this is incredible. And you have this incredible nature experience that was beyond your wildest dreams. And this is what it's like when we start following our heart and stepping into this, you get even more. Even more will show up for you. So, this is what's available to us. When we stop trying to like talk ourselves out of things that our heart needs, that our heart wants, this is when life becomes really magical. This is when we start gaining the keys to unlock the gate. Okay, I've gone on and on about this, and I have one other thing I want to bring through. I hope you can stick with me because this is really cool. So, my guides, I typically, a lot of the time, work with these guides that call themselves the ambassadors. These are Arcturian beings. Um, and they kind of like bring energy and information to a bunch of different extraterrestrials. Like to us or to them, we're basically like an extraterrestrial, because we're a different race than them. Anyways, they're bringing us a lot of information because we're the ones that are receiving the keys right now. And I was like, okay, well, where does your information come from? And they go, we're ambassadors for source. So they go grab the information from source energy or God, whatever you would call it. And they bring that information down and they share it with like Pleiadians, Syrians, whatever. And I think there are other ambassador beings in these different extraterrestrial races. So I know the Pleiadians have some ambassador beings too that I've worked with, but the Arcturians are the ones that show up for me the most. So they came through and they said, I want to look at my notes because I want to make sure I'm getting it correctly. They said they're ambassadors for Source, and they're here to help us remember that this is all just a play. That everyone is playing a role. And when you get into an argument with somebody and you're like, oh, they got angry, and in order to get not reactive, we almost look at them and say, oh, they're playing that role really well. They're playing the role of this angry person right now. Wow, they're really good at that character. And if we can look at it from that sense of like, oh, everybody's playing a character to help me step into my heart and realization of like, oh, this is all here to bring me back to my center. Can I be in this and still fully identify with who I am in my heart? So as source ambassadors, they are here to help us remember love. That is source. Source is the energy of love. And how do we remember and step back into this energy of love? We remember who we are because we are also source. Just like our soul can break off into fractals, we are a fractal of source. So when we remember who we are, what our gifts are, that we love the ocean and we want to be a concert pianist, and these are my gifts and I want to step into that. It's like, then we remember what love feels like. And if we can love ourselves and we're all a piece of source, then that means we love everybody because we're loving ourselves and we're all one source. Does that make sense? So it's really important to dive in and remember who you are and follow it. That's what love is. We can go in and remember who we are, but we can make the decision of like, I'm not going to follow that. I'm going to put a wall up and I'm not going to trust it. But when we dive in and trust that, oh, that's love. We just open our heart up even more. We become the abundance of who we are so we can receive more abundance from being that. And if you think about what love is and what it feels like to be loved, you feel abundant, you feel held, you feel supported. So if you're doing that for yourself and following your heart, you're going to be abundant, you're going to be held, you're going to be supported. And it might sound crazy in this type of world, but it's really not. So, the other thing these Arcturian beings were saying is they're talking a little bit about themselves and they're like, we're like master builders. They're like really mathematical. They can think really practically, I guess, but they know how to like create the blueprint of things and lay things out. So that's why they're really here helping us with this new earth and building it out and creating it. And they're like, we are working with people. They're telling me in this soul mission circle that I'm doing, they're like, we're working with this group to help you build this out. It's really important. But it's not just this group I'm doing, it's also you. If you want to connect with them, you can. And how do we connect with them? They're saying you connect with them, they're going to give you nudges through your heart and you follow them. When you ask, hey, I want to connect with you, you intend to pull that energy in. They're going to speak to you. You can sit with that energy with the intention of, I want to connect with the Arcturians or the ambassador beings. Sit with that energy. Feel the sensations in your body. What's coming up for you? They really speak to us energetically. I see them because I'm very visual, but it doesn't have to be that way. I feel them too. I like woke up in the middle of the night last night. I got woken up. I was like woke up coughing out of nowhere. And then I was just up and I started feeling this energy just like racing through me. And I'm like, oh no. And in a good way, but I was just like, oh, my guides are here. They're racing energy through my body. And then all of a sudden it was just like, all of this just started pouring in. It's like, okay, I guess I'm not going to really get sleep tonight. And I look over at my husband to make sure he's like still sleeping. And I turn on my little, salt lamp and I'm like taking all these notes in my notebook. And I'm like, oh God, I hope he's not awake. I'm like shaking the bed as I'm writing. But it's like, when we open ourselves up to it, we can really start to receive this stuff. I was having a little conversation with them before I went to bed, and I forgot to be like, hey, don't come in while I'm sleeping. So we have to set those parameters too. But okay, we have to keep doing what we love, what we feel guided to. Even if it doesn't make sense, even if we don't know what's on the other side, even if all the pieces haven't come together yet. It's that step. Like it's almost like a broom, If you want to sweep stuff up, if you want to start gathering your steps, it's like you have to take that broom and like pull it along the floor to gather everything together. And we're too afraid to like make that first sweep. But we're not going to pull everything together if we don't. So these guides really came through to say, follow the nudges of your heart. That's the first sweep. And then we're going to give you another one and another one. And pretty soon you're going to have a pile of all these pieces and you're like, I get it. Oh, I see. This is how we release ourselves from this third dimensional consciousness. It wants to limit us and keep us out of our heart. Our heart is where our power is. When we follow that, we are shifting the planet. When we're stepping more into who we are shifting the planet and other planets and other civilizations in different planes of existence and time, other versions of ourselves. We're sending them information. And that is how we build New Earth. That is how we heal not only the planet, but the universe and other places in the universe that are stuck in this paradigm as well. It's a clearing. It's massive. This is huge. You are huge. Your energy, your heart, follow it. I promise you, things will become unbelievable. Now, the last thing I want to say is, we are still in these systems. We're not here to get out of these systems. So many of us are like, I want to get out of here. I want to get away from these people. We are here to learn to utilize these systems to the benefit of our heart. We're not here to have them have control over us. It's like, oh, you created this system? How cute. Let me use this and show you how powerful I can be. I'll show you how easy it is for me to attract the abundance. I'll show you how non reactive I can get. I'll show you how I can create with my energy in the midst of these systems. We're not here to get out of them. We're here to learn how to exist within them at the utmost of our power. And when we do that, that gate flies open and we all cross to this higher dimension. Okay, this was a long one. I rambled like crazy. I hope it was helpful. Um, I have applications open for the Soul Mission Circle until the 28th. So they're closing fast. Spots are filling up. If you are like, man, I am ready to dive in and do this, throw your application into the mix. I'd love to have you. So thank you so much for being here and all that you are doing. Thank you for being you and stepping into your heart. We're all working on this together. We're all a family. We're all interconnected. Don't be afraid to use these systems to lift yourself out of them, if that makes sense. All right. I love you guys. Thank you for being here, and I will talk to you soon.